The Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
And just like that, we're off and running another brand new live edition of Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Theisen, Drew DeArmond with you until 9 a.m. on this Wednesday morning. We appreciate everybody for joining us, for taking a listen, taking a watch this morning. 256-576-4977. That is the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. We welcome your phone calls this morning, and we've got plenty to get through today. Plenty to get through today here on the show. I don't know if anybody has seen it or not, but if you head to our Twitter page right now, we did put it up there. Vanderbilt has a new logo, and it is interesting to say the least. We want to get your thoughts on that, so head to our Twitter page. Take a look at the two pictures. We've got a version of the old logo and a version of the new logo there. So take a look at it, and you can give us a call. Tell us what you think. 256-576-4977. Is it the worst logo redone? I forget the word that I am looking for. Transformation. I don't think it's not the worst in sports ever. We have seen some really, really bad ones over time, but we want you to get your opinions. 256-576-4977. We'll talk about that. We got a spring football question and some NCAA basketball officiating numbers that I want to share there. But have you seen the new Vandy logo?
I have not. I heard a little bit about it, but I have not seen it.
All right, I am going to pull it up here for you to take a look at on the screen. And there you go. That is the old one.
Right. That's been the one for last.
It's the V with the star, and the V sits inside the star with the covered black, okay?
Yeah, and they've used that for many, many years.
All right, here's their new
different forms.
That's it.
Okay.
It is just a gold V.
Just a gold V. Now, they have changed their uniforms several times, and the color combinations and things of that nature, I guess, trying to, keep things fresh and help them market things. But, yeah, it's different. I mean, it's I think I like the other one better, but if you look at baseball.
But I hope they didn't pay somebody to redo that.
Very simplistic, I will say this. No, but I mean, like they've used a V similar to that, but taller, I guess, and thinner for baseball. And I don't really blame Tim Corbin because the rest of the athletic department's kind of a disaster. But he sort of does his own thing, and they've done things a little bit differently at Vanderbilt baseball wise. And so I don't know that's I personally I like the star better, but just me.
I know I just saw that, and it caught a lot of people's attention.
Yeah,
because especially around here, because the city of Florence tried to change their logo, and they paid $500,000, and it was just awful. And so a lot of people were like, well, maybe they went to the same spot that the city of Florence went to change the V because it is that plain. And
it's just plain Jane. I mean, I don't know. I hope you didn't pay anybody to come up with that. I mean,
that's what I want to know. I mean, just simply because we've seen a lot from Vanderbilt. We've talked a lot about Vanderbilt, how they don't spend a lot of money, that it's taken forever to get this, I guess you could say, new buildings on campus, new facilities, putting money into the athletic budget.
I mean,
I hope they didn't pay for that and not pay to get some other stuff done. That's all.
Oh yeah, man. I heard stories about air conditioning not working and a lot of other stuff. I mean, Rough.
All right, 256-576-4977. That's how we get everything cranked up for you
And
this morning.
I did see the end of the NIT game last night. So Vanderbilt fell just short of getting to New York City.
Who'd they play? I had no idea.
They lost at Xavier. So it was, I think, 75-73, I believe, was the final score. So Xavier wins that game by 2. So the Scottie Pippen Jr. Flop Fest doesn't go to New York City. He had a great game. I think he had 27 points, nearly had a triple-double. But the Commodores could not quite beat Colby Jones, former Mountain Brook star, and the Xavier Musketeers. So
when we look at the NIT,
right.
we base a team's success on the NCAA run, how well they do. We look at Auburn and we say, well, they didn't make it out of the first weekend after winning the SEC regular season. Maybe not as great as what we thought the season should be. We look at Alabama. They fall in game one. We sit there and say, well, it was one of those up and down seasons. It didn't end the way that we had hoped it would for them. When we're fans of a team and they make it to the NIT, we take in, well, it's a building block for next year, or it's more practice time, it's whatever. How should we look at a team's success in the NIT, like a Vanderbilt, who they had been atrocious the past few years? I mean, just even talking NIT or NCAA was out of the question. They make it to the NIT this year. Does that change the fortunes of Jerry Stackhouse? Does this little bit of a run in the NIT make us look at Jerry Stackhouse differently? Does it make we look at Vanderbilt differently? Should we look at any team differently that makes a run in the NIT?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely a step forward for Vanderbilt, but at the same time, I will be surprised. Now, he may come back, but I think Scottie Pippen Jr. is going to declare for the draft and stay in.
Yeah.
So if you don't have Scottie Pippen Jr. back, I would say it's a step. I don't see how you're going to be better, I guess is the best way I'm going to phrase it. I do think that
this is as good as they can get right now.
Stack and his team got better this year. I do think they took steps forward, but with Scottie Pippen Jr. likely leaving to go into the NBA and turn professional, unless you find another one in the transfer portal, which is going to be very difficult, then how are you going to be better? I think Liam Robbins will probably be back, the center that came from Minnesota and missed the majority of the season before finally getting healthy and playing for Vanderbilt. But unless you can talk Scottie Pippen Jr. into coming back, and I will say this, I don't know that Scottie Pippen Jr. is ever going to be a first-round pick. Do I think he could be drafted? Yes. He went through the draft process last year and then came back and got some feedback, and I think realized he was probably going to be undrafted, though he had a really good sophomore year at Vandy. But again, the only way to really take a huge step forward will be to get him back, because he's a first-team All-SEC, leading scorer in the conference kind of guy, and you would have the majority of your squad back if you're Jerry. And to be honest with you, if you had him back and didn't make the NCAA tournament, then you should be fired.
Right, right.
But, as long as your team was healthy. But again, I think it's probably a push. I would just say yes, it was progress. They got to the NIT, got to the quarterfinals, did a nice job. But at the same time, they didn't make the NCAA tournament, and now you're losing your best player. So, more than likely to the draft. So I don't know. It's a tough deal if you're Jerry Stackhouse, because it's kind of like running in the mud. You don't know if you can get some traction. But Texas A&M is going to play Steve Forbes and Wake Forest tonight in College Station. They still have a chance to have an SEC representative in the NIT Final Four. Florida actually lost to that same Xavier team and traveled to Xavier last week and got blown out by 14. Under their interim coach once Mike White had moved on to Georgia. So, again,
Texas A&M, BYU still in there, Washington State.
Because I believe BYU sent your alma mater home.
Yeah, BYU sent Northern Iowa home in the second round.
Right.
Virginia and St. Bonaventure.
St. Bonaventure shocked Virginia last night, 52-51 at Virginia. So St. Bonaventure's been the road warriors.
Does Texas A&M have to win the NIT?
No, but it would be another positive, I think, accomplishment for them, because I'll say this: they've still got to be disappointed.
That's what I'm saying.
They should have been in the NCAA tournament,
right?
And then I think that's why they struggled against Alcorn State in their first round NIT matchup. Yet they got it rolling and have gotten to the quarterfinals and won their second round matchup. But again, I think if you're Texas A&M, you're certainly trying to spin this as trying to make a positive out of it, get to New York City and have a chance to win a tournament. But it's still a disappointment for A&M, because you got to feel like the way you played down the stretch that you should have been in the NCAA tournament. Of course, the only way to show them that you should have been is to win the NIT.
That's what I'm saying. They kept saying, and Buzz Williams, goes in after that first game against Alcorn State and goes on a lengthy rant on how that the NCAA needs to review their selection process, needs to do all this. If they don't win the NIT after talking like they should be in the NCAA tournament, how do we look at that?
Well, I just think if you're at Texas A&M, you've got to look at it as a disappointment. I mean, because you wanted to play on the biggest stage. But again, they played much better in the second round matchup at home against Oregon, 75-60. And being a 1 seed in the NIT, the one thing advantage wise is you're going to have every game at home until you reach New York. So at least if you're A&M, you have to make the best out of it. You certainly feel like you should have been in the NCAA tournament, no doubt about it. But and that's what teams have done in the past. Anthony Grant had a team, I believe in 2011, that did it at Alabama and used it as a springboard to get to the NCAA tournament last year. Mark Gottfried did the same thing in year 3 at Alabama, got to the finals, and then went to the NCAA tournament 5 years in a row after that. If you're Texas A&M and Buzz Williams, this is his first postseason berth at Texas A&M. You need to stretch it out as far as you can, but what you're trying to do is prove a point that you should have been in it, and then use the momentum to be an NCAA tournament team next year. Because I will say this, is the way A&M finished getting to the finals of the SEC tournament, and if they at least get to New York City to the Final Four of the NIT, if you don't win or in the next year and go to the NCAA tournament, then it was all for naught. So I think for A&M, it's important just to set the tone for next year. Vanderbilt, it was a step in the right direction getting to postseason, but their only issue is personnel. And again, what people have to realize is people keep talking about Stackhouse, developing Scottie Pippen Jr., and he did, but he really didn't sign Scottie Pippen Jr. That was Bryce Drew, who actually found Scottie's son. And so that's going to be interesting to see where Stackhouse goes from here, because for Stack to stay employed at Vanderbilt, he's going to have to eventually break through and get to the NCAA tournament. And I will say this, that there's not as much pressure at a Vanderbilt in football to go to bowl games every year and reach postseason, but there's more expectations in basketball, and they've been through since Jim Foster left years ago to go to Ohio State. They've been through the ringer with women's basketball coaches at Vanderbilt. Now Shay Ralph from her UConn days is their head coach. And then you look at Stackhouse, and they went through it with Bryce Drew. Kevin Stallings had a really good run there. They just kind of ran out of steam. But again, and he was a great system coach. But and he got them to the NCAAs and NITs many times. But if you're Vanderbilt, that's one sport besides baseball, which is of course the best by far on their campus, that you can hang your hat on, and that's basketball. And so Stackhouse is on the clock a little bit. He needs to get to the NCAAs next year.
All right, staying on the basketball talk. Tomorrow we get Sweet 16, and we'll talk about the matchups coming up tomorrow, because they'll play tomorrow. But I did find this interesting because after the weekend, on Monday, we talked a lot about the officiating when it comes to the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And there have been some idiotic calls, like the technical for hanging on the rim call that we saw over the weekend, and the way the North Carolina-Baylor game was refereed. We've seen some ups and downs. But the NCAA did put out, and they have numbers. Guess how accurate the officials have been when it comes to the NCAA tournament so far this year?
I have no clue.
96% accurate when it comes to making calls in the NCAA tournament. When you include no calls when we should have blown the whistle, it does drop, though, to 90.5%.
Well, and I just know this. If they didn't have this, then all that means is go check the monitor, then they'd be in even more trouble. They check the monitor quite a bit. And you want to do that down the stretch of games in the last 2 minutes to make sure you get a call right. But again, it certainly extends games. The stoppages are sometimes maddening because it seems like they stop at every other play. But again, you want to make sure you get it right. But I've said it before. I still think officiating has took a turn for the worse. I still think it's morphing into more of an NBA style of officiating, which I don't like. And what I mean by that is they let you get away with traveling. There's not as much. And we all know the controversies with the block charge that aren't consistent. Or it's like you mentioned the Baylor and North Carolina game. They just let you play. It's almost like a tackle football game.
That game was almost like a tackle football.
Yeah,
it was hitting on.
Yeah, they don't call anything. You know what I'm saying? And then my problem covering some Alabama games this year was it would be totally different on one side of the floor. One side of the floor they would call every touch foul, and then on the other side they would let all kind of physicality go. So my thing is consistency. Just call the game the same way on both ends of the floor, but they just haven't been doing that.
Yeah, I just thought that interesting. 96%. All right, 256-576-4977. That is the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. And we do want to hear from you on this Wednesday morning. Your thoughts on the NCAA tournament being officiated. Do you agree that it is 96% right when they've come to their calls this year? 90% when there's a no call. So apparently they are being graded, and they're being graded very, very well. We do want to hear from you. We got a lot of other stuff coming up here in just a few minutes. Mark McLeod will join us because Florida has their new head basketball coach. And it's interesting because he's interesting. He is not... The way that he coaches, the way that he analyzes games, the way that he does things is just a little bit different, Drew. It's not just simple X's and O's. There's a lot of different analytics going on here with the Florida new basketball coach.
Yeah, and he's a Bruce Pearl guy. He was on his staff several years ago, and he's really a wonderkind in his early 30s. And he made San Francisco relevant maybe for the first time since some couple of dudes named Bill Russell and K.C. Jones. And then in the 1970s, I was pointed this out a few days ago, I forgot that my guy Bill Cartwright, ugliest jumper in the history of basketball, also played at San Francisco back in the 70s, and they had some really good teams.
Man, you bring up ugly. Yes, ugly jumper.
Bill was a really good NBA player, played for a long time. And but again... it was on some of those Jordan teams in the early 90s that finally broke through. But, yeah, I mean, totally. Probably the last – of course, they won a national championship with K.C. Jones and Bill and the great Bill Russell. And then with Bill Cartwright, they were in the NCAA tournament as a high seed. But that was probably the last time, and that was the late 70s. And so what he's done, Todd Golden, is pretty amazing. Making them a factor in the West Coast Conference. I wasn't as sold on them being in the tournament. They were a 10 seed. I thought, that maybe that was a little bit much. But they lost an overtime game. They certainly acquitted themselves well in the first round. And so I think when you look at what he did there in a place that's not easy to get players, and they had a tough matchup in the first round with Murray State, I'll give him credit. And then the connection, too. and he's been on the drive with us here at 97.7 The Zone a few times. Is of course Scott Strickland is the AD, but the associate AD at Florida is Jay Jacobs, who worked at Auburn for many years and new coach, and I think Coach Golden, and I think that was the big connection there probably for him to end up at Florida. And I think Florida realized, they weren't going to be able to poach someone from another major Power 5 program at this point in time.
That's what I want to ask you, though. Are you surprised? Because college football, SEC, obviously, we know it. We live it. Brian Kelly goes from Notre Dame. That was, a big move. Are you surprised that South Carolina, LSU, we look at Florida, we look at all the other ones, the 5 openings that we had, that nobody was able to go out and get and take and lure a big coach in, that all those schools went out and got the next up-and-comer?
Well, I'm not totally shocked, no. I mean, when you think about this, Rick Barnes has done a nice job resuscitating the Tennessee program and getting them back on a much higher plane that Bruce Pearl had. But Bruce Pearl, when he was hired at Tennessee, he was at Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Right.
Okay, and Rick Barnes had been fired at Texas. Okay, so that's why he was on the market. It's become increasingly harder, Scott. And then, of course, Nate Oates was at a mid-major in Buffalo for Alabama. Bruce Pearl was in purgatory with a show cause for Auburn. To hire guys away from major programs, it doesn't happen very much. It really doesn't. And when you think about this, think about the Kentucky Wildcats. They hired Billy Clyde Gillespie. It was a disaster. Okay, we all understand. They hired him away from Texas A&M. But where was John Calipari when they hired him? He was at Memphis. And that's not considered, no disrespect. It has great history, but that is not a Power 5 job. It's very, very hard for guys. And look at North Carolina and Duke. They promoted from within. They did not even try to go hire someone away. And then you start researching, and it seems as though if John Shire was not the coach, if he had not been chosen, and let's not misunderstand anything here, by Mike Krzyzewski to be the head coach at Duke, if the president had gotten his way, supposedly the school president wanted Tommy Amaker. He's at Harvard. That's not a Power 5 program either, and he's a former Duke guy. Coach K's point guard on that 86 team.
Amaker, former head coach at Michigan, too.
He's
had that head coaching experience.
Yeah. But right now he's not at a Power 5 program. It's very difficult to get these guys now because guess what? Everybody's got a conference, network now, Big Ten network, Pac-12 network, SEC network. And the money these guys make, a lot of coaches don't want to leave. And if they do, they try to stupidly jump to the NBA. It's going to be a disaster, and you'll be back on the pro level. On the college level, except for maybe Billy Donovan. Billy seems determined, at least for now, to stay up there.
And he's having success.
Relatively, playoffs. So
going from that college leap to the NBA leap, he's had probably the most success since what may be a Larry Brown, the ultimate successor, because he won an NBA championship.
He's still a nomad, though.
Yeah.
They'll be the nomad.
And then I'm trying to think. John Calipari did not have success
disaster.
In there.
Jerry Tarkanian, disaster.
Rick Pitino,
Lon
disaster.
Kruger, disaster. Rick had some success with the Knicks. Now the Celtics, it was not good.
No,
okay, because he thought he was getting Tim Duncan, and then he got Chauncey Billups, and Chauncey was good, but he wasn't Tim Duncan.
True
okay?
that.
So Rick didn't succeed either, and now he's owning a college. I own a college.
Good one. Good one.
But and what's amazing about Rick is he's sticking to his guns. I guarantee you, if he had made it known, he could have been the head coach at Maryland. Okay, and they would have thrown a parade to get Rick Pitino to Maryland. But he wants to stay at Iona. I think he's thankful that they gave him another shot to get back in the college game. And he wants to prove a point that he can elevate them like he did Providence many, many years ago.
When does that thankfulness, though, you think wear out and Rick Pitino ultimately ends up back in a Power 5 job?
It's going to be interesting because he's in a one-bid league. And they dominated the regular season, but as you know, they lost in the conference tournament.
If he gets him to another conference tournament,
he's spun it this year that he loves the pressure, that you have to be on your game and you have to finish it. But it will be interesting, even though he's getting up there in age. If Rick decides one more time to take a Power 5 job, and
if the right job opens for him,
I mean, you would have thought Maryland would have interested in him. I mean, they have a lot of I think resources, even though I will say I don't think the Maryland job is what their fans think it is. I mean, Gary Williams has been gone a long time. I think Mark Turgeon was a good coach. He ran aground a little bit this year, and the last year, remember, they lost to Alabama in the round of 32. But again, and his best team, as has been pointed out, was ruined by COVID. Yeah. So, but we'll see.
Let's get that break in. Mark McLeod will fill us in on all the fun adventures with the Florida Gators and their new basketball coach coming up next.
You're listening to Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Rain comes to an end across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee by the time we get to the lunch hour. Maybe a couple of peaks of sunshine through the later part of the afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s, dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Thursday. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s once again, and then dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Friday, and isolated showers possible. Most of us going to stay dry. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
The kitchen is the heart of any home. It's where the family gathers. It's where kids discover old recipes and make them their own. Just starting out or just now getting started on the dream kitchen you've always wanted?
I'm Chris Haygood, and from all of us here at Bob Wallace Appliance to the home builders and the homeowners of the Huntsville area, a heartfelt thank you for buying local. We're in Huntsville, Florence, and Coleman, and online at bobwallaceappliance.com.
Tom Abraham here from my friend Ross Roberts and his team at Valley Equipment Rental. Coming in April, Valley will have a second location opening up on the North Parkway between Winchester Road and Bob Wade. They'll be offering bigger contractor-only type equipment, including 10K reach forklifts, 300 series track hose, and larger rollers and dozers, along with other equipment. Valley Equipment's 2 locations will better serve the region and allow them to grow their fleet. Valley Equipment Rental, locally owned for 10 years, where they put more care in every rental.
Outdoor season is coming. Can't wait.
Here at Brooks & Collier, neither can we. Outdoor season is also grilling season.
And we have plenty of grills and smokers in stock from Traeger, Blaze, and Big Green Egg.
There's the greenhouse, new indoor items and home furnishings as well.
Whatever it takes. Browse over 2 acres of furnishings. Can't wait.
How about you? North Alabama's indoor and outdoor living headquarters for over 75 years.
813 Meridian Street and at brooksandcollier.com.
You want the right specialist for your recovery. At SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center, we understand every body is different. Your muscles and bones are unique, as is your body. Our SportsMed specialists offer innovative treatments and minimally invasive procedures, allowing you to quickly return to the life you love. Locations in Huntsville, Madison, Athens, and Decatur, and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com. Improving performance, improving lives.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
Are you in the market for a recreational vehicle? Do you want to get out and see more of this beautiful country? Well, imagine hearing the laughter of your little ones enjoying gooey s'mores by a cozy campfire and making lasting memories with your friends and family from the comfort of a new camper. We can make your dreams come true at Hall's RV. With over 15 years in the camping business, we know how to get our customers into the perfect camper. We have several models and floor plans here for you to choose from, both new and used. We're family owned and operated with fantastic deals and great service. Everyone wants to work with people they can trust, so come on down to Hall's RV and get the deal of a lifetime. We'll treat you right and get you on the road in the camper of your dreams. Visit us on Highway 431 in Albertville. Hall's RVs, where we sell fun. Or see us on the web at www.hallsrvsales.com.
April means A-Day.
You know, folks, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Alabama is still Alabama.
Listen to Alabama football all season long on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Steve Moulton from The Drive. Join us this afternoon from 5 to 7 with Wes Neighbors and me. Now back to Talkin Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Welcome back, Talkin Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Theisen, Drew DeArmond with you, holding court until 9 a.m. this morning on a Wednesday morning. A little bit later in the show, we will have Steve Robertson on the show, and our hearts and prayers go out to everyone affected by the recent storms, including those in Starkville, Mississippi, and it's
to the southeast last night, man.
And our thoughts and prayers go out to them. And Steve Robertson will join the show a little bit later, and we'll just make sure everything is okay over there in Starkville where he is at. But I pretty much can say I think everything is okay in the city of Gainesville, because now they do have a head basketball coach. A lot of enthusiasm from the said new coach. I've seen some of the pictures, some of the videos out there, and safe to say he's excited to be there.
Oh, yeah, as we said, he's only 36 years old. I mean, he's one of the younger coaches in all of college basketball. This is the same formula Florida used in their last two hires, Billy Donovan from Marshall many, many years ago, and then with Mike White from Louisiana Tech. And Mike did a solid job, but it's hard to follow a legend, and that's what Billy Donovan is. That's why it's Billy Donovan Court in the O'Connell Center. But our next guest knows everything Gators. He's back with his, of course, his daily show, hosted The Blitz on WFOY Radio in St. Augustine. Also has his daily podcasts, The Gator Blitz and The Gridiron Growl. I've been part of those, and it's been an honor to. And I'll be on with him later this afternoon on The Blitz. But Mark McLeod has been good enough to join us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline this morning. Mark, welcome back to Huntsville. You're with Drew and Scott. I hope everything's okay over there in Gainesville, man.
Yeah, it is. Good morning, guys. Yeah, these storms have been horrible for everybody. We had some tornadoes and issues last week, and I know people in Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia have had their share too. But it's good to be on with you guys.
Yeah, it's always great to catch up, man. But as Scott was just saying, new era in Gator basketball. First, before we kind of delve into the Todd Golden hire, how surprised were the people around in Gainesville that Mike White left for Georgia? That one kind of came out of left field, I thought.
It really did. And, boy, what a benefit for the Gators it was. Even now, instead of being on the hook for $8 million or what that buyout amount would have actually meant, they get $1.2 million in. And it's a good move. I think Mike White, he clearly saw the writing on the wall. He's heard the fans over the past 2 years. So this was a situation where he was willing to make the move, and I think it was a good move for him. I think it'll be a good move for Georgia basketball. Georgia basketball hasn't been relevant since a tornado struck the Georgia Dome back in 2008. So, I think he'll win some games at Georgia. I really do. But I think that for Florida, this is a good move, and the Gator fans are ready to turn the page.
And they turn the page, to another young one. And I'm sure Florida fans are like, well, when we got Billy Donovan, he was young. He was energetic as well. Todd Golden comes in with a lot of energy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's needed. It's really needed, Scott, when you look at it. And Drew was right. Drew hit the nail on the head. You know, you look at the last few Florida hires, and really go to football and look what Scott Strickland did with Billy Napier, you know, because there were Gator fans that were not happy about that. They wanted a big-name hire, a big splash to go steal somebody from another program. But this is what Florida's done. They've gone and got Golden, another situation where Florida fans, most have bought on. Most are, hey, look, let's see what this guy can go do. He's obviously going to have to go recruit. He's going to have to hit the transfer portal because Florida basketball right now is really essentially 4 players plus a couple commitments, and they lose Mark Renaud. He's decommitted, the 5-star forward. So now you're in a situation where it's going to be on Golden, and as you said, Scott, the energy is going to be much needed to go and build this team. Obviously, transition year is going to be rough for Florida. Everybody expects that. But beyond that, one of the things that we've heard about Todd Golden is that he is a pretty relentless recruiter.
Well, and that's one good thing, too. He did it in a somewhat unconventional way at San Francisco by going overseas, finding guys. I've always kind of liked that method because every program's not going to be able to bring in McDonald's All-Americans and top 50 kids, but there's basketball players. I've always said this: it only takes 13 of them, and they're everywhere, Mark, including overseas. And so the avenues and the connections that he has throughout the basketball world, I think, may help. Because I watched his San Francisco teams play some this year. I watched them this year and the year before, actually, because we'd see a lot of West Coast Conference games late at night. But they were a skilled team. He had some size, bigs that could step out. I think the way he's going to approach this may benefit Florida some.
I agree with you. Wholeheartedly, and I like that too, because you can go find some gems overseas. You really can. You just watch it. For anybody that's really not that into college basketball, well, just look at the NBA draft and see how many guys from overseas are drafted. I think it's a good situation for Golden. And then, of course, you know, he can meet some of the coaches and develop some relationships from some of the top programs in Florida, and that will be something that's just going to have to be developed.
Yeah, he's got to build it a little bit, and you look at it, and he does have that as an assistant coach because he was in the SEC under Bruce Pearl. Those first couple years that Bruce Pearl were there, the hard years, the lean years where they had to work hard to try to establish the program, build the program. And if he wants to get Florida back to where Florida fans want it, it's going to take a little bit of work. He's going to have to build it back.
That's exactly right, Scott. And I think that's the part that has Florida fans excited overall because, you know, when it was announced, you heard from a few, what? Are you kidding? Well, you know, they were shocked that they didn't go get a big name, and they really thought that's where Strickland was going. There were some reports from some a couple media guys who said it looks like Florida's trying to make a big splash hire, and then they announced Todd Golden. But I think, hey, I'm perfectly fine with it. I want to see what the guy can do, and let's see how he builds it. But you're exactly right. You know, to be there in those years when Pearl was trying to reinvent, if you will, the Auburn program, that benefits Florida, or should benefit Florida anyway.
Yeah, and the staff, I try to get reactions from national guys like a Jeff Goodman, who from Stadium, who is connected in basketball on really all levels, NBA, college and high school, AAU situations. And I was watching a podcast with him and Robbie Hummel last night, and they gave the hire a C+. You know, because they were concerned. Goodman is concerned about the fit at Florida for Golden, but then he freely admitted, and I remember this 3 years ago, he didn't like the fit for Nate Oates going from Buffalo to Alabama, and he said, and Greg Byrne completely, you know, was right on that situation. So he said the staff was going to be very important, though, for what Todd Golden needs to do to get off on the right foot at Florida.
Yeah, and you know, for that, he probably is going to need somebody who's a bit connected to some of the Florida schools.
Right.
You know, there's basketball talent in Florida.
Oh, there is, yes.
Overwhelming. You know, it's not overwhelming like some states, but but certainly there's some basketball talent in this school. And you just go down to the Orlando area. There's quite a few good players in Orlando and down in Miami. So, yeah, he's just going to have to connect because he's outside of the 2 years he was with Pearl, he's really a West Coast guy. So that's just going to have to be developed, and hopefully that will happen. We've seen at Florida some West Coast coaches get hired and things just didn't work out. But in one of those cases, in particular with Andy Lopez in baseball, he did not connect with the Florida baseball coaches, which was absurd because high school baseball in Florida is really, really strong. He was still recruiting guys out in Arizona and California and what have you. So we'll see. I think Todd Golden, I got to believe Scott Strickland had all of these discussions with him, and I think it's going to be just fine. I hope, anyway. We'll see.
And then, as you said, with Florida, a new era in football with the Billy Napier administration taking over. And I say that because he runs an organization a lot like Nick Saban. He wants to have, a lot of support staff, not just the guys on the field. It's been interesting, too, because I thought he was going to bring a guy like Kevin Norwood with him, who is an off-the-field guy, former Alabama wide receiver. He ends up with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, but at the same time, I know he brought a lot of guys with him from Louisiana. I know we were texting last night. You're getting some intel from spring practice starting now under Billy Napier at Florida, his first one. What's the vibe coming from his first spring as the Gator head coach?
He set things up from an organizational standpoint really beautifully, and people have praised it. They've looked at it, and of course, look, he's trying to do it the Alabama way, the Nick Saban way. So why not? That's exactly why people are excited. But you're starting to see on the practice field now, guys starting to pick things up rather quickly, and so there are only 4 practice sessions in, Drew, but you've got a situation at quarterback where Jack Miller, the transfer from Ohio State, is looking pretty good. He's starting to step up a little bit and surpass some of the other quarterbacks. You have Anthony Richardson, who's still the guy to beat, but Anthony Richardson has looked pretty good overall, but had a few issues here and there, and Jack Miller is now it looks like he's starting to push him, and that's precisely what Florida's needed in that quarterback room. Offensive line has looked pretty good, with the exception of with 2 or 3 guys have looked really good. Now you see Osiris Torrance, the transfer from Louisiana, really starting to pick some things up. Left tackle position at Florida with Richard Garage has looked good. And that's something desperately that's been needed at Florida is to get some guys to work together and push, because it just wasn't happening under John Hevesy. There were too many holes. So now, the positions that you haven't heard a whole lot of good things out of practice: wide receiver outside of Justin Shorter, and tight end outside of Nick Elksness. You're not hearing a whole lot there. So those are a couple positions that we're waiting to hear offensively.
Quarterback spot will, though, be the one going, especially into fall. That's going to be the battle, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And look, Richardson's the guy to beat. Everybody knows that. He's you could say, the leader of the offense for Florida. He really is. He's kind of taken that role on his shoulders. But from what I heard, Jack Miller overall the last couple days has probably been the better of the two. So it's good. That's good news. Florida fans need to see that. You have Jalen Kitna out there doing some things. Carlos Del Rio. So you've got a good quarterback room, which Florida, thankfully, Dan Mullen was able to kind of help secure that a bit. Jack Miller comes over, of course, with Napier. So now you're starting to get some push there, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the quarterback position is one where Florida really has struggled in recent years because, quite frankly, after Emory Jones just hasn't developed. He just hasn't developed into that guy.
And was there a surprise that Emory left before the end of spring practice? Because of course, your compatriot John Frary, we've had him on a few times, and he felt like going into spring that Emory would be there, but then once spring concluded, by the end of the semester, he would move on. Was there a surprise that he decided to move on this quickly?
Yes, I think there was. I got to believe he went out there and saw the writing on the wall and said, "This isn't going to be for me." Mm-hmm. That's the only thing only conclusion I can come to. Why you would leave after 1 week of practice sessions, and then 1.5 maybe. But yeah, I think that's exactly where it is. And look, we know he sat behind Kyle Trask. That really wasn't expected, but that's what happened. Trask moves on to the NFL, and he just hasn't secured that position and done very well. And I think he just needed a new lease on life. Now, from my perspective, I thought he should have left before spring. I really thought he should have gone on and moved somewhere else and tried to secure himself a spot elsewhere. But he after talking to Napier, after talking to Ryan O'Hara, the quarterback coach, he decided that, okay, I'll give it a shot and I'll give it a try. So he was out there, and they wished him the best, and he's on his way now.
Certainly is. Well, I know you're going to have a lot to talk about on the Blitz later this afternoon and, of course, with your 2 daily podcasts. Mark, let everybody know how to connect with you, and we always appreciate the info Florida-wise when you come on the show.
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, certainly 4 o'clock at 1021news.com, 4 o'clock Eastern, and then on Twitter at McLeod Live, McLeod Live. Yep,
the Gator Blitz and the Gridiron Growl podcast as well. Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Always good to be on with you.
All right, Mark McLeod with us. Let's get a break in. When we come back, continue the talk, 256-576-4977.
You're listening to Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Rain comes to an end across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee by the time we get to the lunch hour. Maybe a couple of peaks of sunshine through the later part of the afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s, dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Thursday. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s once again, and then dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Friday, and isolated showers possible, most of us going to stay dry. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Find your rhythm, feed your rhythm at Rhythm on Monroe. Not just a great restaurant and rooftop bar, but the perfect spot to relax and take in a beautiful scenic downtown sunset on the rooftop or patio. Enjoy Chef Becky Vibbert's fresh and delicious fan favorites like braised beef short rib sliders, seasonally inspired fresh salmon dishes, crispy Brussels sprouts, and fresh baked peach walnut cobbler or chocolate chess pie. Open daily at 4 p.m. with brunch from 11 to 3 on Saturday and Sunday on the corner of Clinton and Monroe in the Von Braun Center. Follow Rhythm on Monroe on Facebook.
Hey, Bobby White from Woody Anderson Ford back again to talk to you about how easy it is to make a custom factory order. Just click WoodyAndersonFord.com, hit the top banner, then start making your selections. It's really simple, and you'll end up with the exact vehicle you want. Not only is there no extra charge to custom order, but at Woody Anderson Ford, we'll take 5% off MSRP on top of any additional factory rebates on the 2022 F-150, Bronco Sport, Explorer, Expedition, and Ranger. Another option for you is a certified pre-owned. We have over 100 Ford Blue Advantage certified pre-owned models to choose from. Our Ford Gold certified are low mileage, gently used with great warranties. They've passed a 175-point inspection by certified technicians and come with a 24-hour roadside assistance, plus a full tank of gas and a fresh oil change. Also, don't forget our service department is offering a free pickup and delivery when it's time for your next Ford service. Woody Anderson Ford, Jordan at Sparkman. Hope to see you soon.
Ann Adams with Berkshire Hathaway Rise Real Estate is the one name to know if you're buying or selling real estate. With years of local experience, Ann Adams offers buyers in-depth knowledge of the local housing market and will narrow available properties down to those you'll be interested in so you can save time when shopping for your new home. If you're ready to sell, Ann offers a seamless process using accurate pricing and expert negotiation skills to make sure you get a fair price for your home. Call Ann Adams today at 256-337-2625 or log on bhhsriserealestate.com.
Lowe's Provember event is back, and we're thanking pros like you all month long with buy one, get one free deals on select DeWalt power tools and top values like a Spyder 2-pack of 4.5-inch diamond cutoff wheels for $14.98. Join us for Provember, going on now through November 24th. Shop in-store or at Lowe's.com/Provember. Lowe's, the new home for pros. While supplies last, U.S. only, valid 10/28 through 11/24.
Tom Abraham here from my friend Brian Hamaker and his team at North Alabama Mortgage. Look, buying a home is the biggest purchase you will make in your life, and it can be a bit intimidating, so you want people that can help walk you through the mortgage process and get you the best deal possible. That's what North Alabama Mortgage does, and they do it in Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, from first-time purchases to refis, conventional, VA, FHA, and USDA loans. They have the solution at North Alabama Mortgage. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more. That's NorthAlabamaMortgage.com.
This segment of Talkin Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
Welcome back. That scream there could be some of you watching Major League Baseball this summer. I don't know if you were a fan of this or not. I can't remember.
Right.
But Major League Baseball is indeed bringing back the extra inning rule for the 2022 season, where they will place a runner on second base beginning in the 10th inning.
I thought they were doing away with that softball rule.
They are bringing it back. And believe it or not, when they were in negotiations for the new CBA, the Major League Baseball Players Association was very, very much in favor of the rule. They love the rule that you put the so-called ghost runner on second base to start the extra innings. That'll be that way during the regular season, during all regular season extra inning games. That is coming back for this year.
Great. Not a fan. It's baseball, not softball, bro.
You do not like that rule.
No.
Several of the coaches and managers along Major League Baseball have said they do like it because it does have the potential to save arms and save things for the next day as far as pitchers go. They've added a new rule also to the protocols, which they are calling it the Shohei Ohtani rule.
Yeah.
If the starting pitcher is also hitting in the lineup like Ohtani does, he can remain in the game as a DH, even if he's pulled out of the game as a starting pitcher.
Yeah, there you go. There's only one Ohtani.
So, there you go. Joe Madden had argued to that, not argued, but had lobbied for that because he felt like they were the only team in baseball playing by the old National League rules, because now the National League has adopted the designated hitter, and so therefore the only one really now that would want their pitcher to hit is the Los Angeles Angels because Shohei Ohtani does hit when he pitches. So I imagine he'll be the only pitcher hitting this year in Major League Baseball, period, now that the National League does have. All right, let's get out to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Richard's with us this morning. Good morning, Richard.
Morning, guys. On your NIT conversation earlier, actually Memphis won it last year, which they made the tournament. But I think nowadays with roster turnover and the transfer portal, it probably it only matters if you bring back most of your team.
That's true, and in many cases you don't. Right.
I mean, Xavier's winning, but they have a new coach, so he could take the whole roster over. So what good is it doing?
Yeah, right. That's very true.
So, but like I said, Memphis did, and I know Vandy won it back. I'm going to say maybe early 2000s, and South Carolina won it once during the Frank Martin era. But then Frank only made one tournament, which mattered, which they went to the Final Four. But it didn't build anything long term as far as making the NCAA tournament. And on your officials, I think a lot of the officiating, and Drew, you always kind of talk about this. There's no such thing as Southeastern Conference officials.
No, there's not. Yeah.
But I think most of your problems come in when you have three guys that have never worked together.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That's a good point. Yeah,
each conference does rate officials. So the ones that work the SEC games are rated. The ACC ones, they're all rated, and then the highest rated ones get selected to work NCAA tournament games, and they work with guys that they have never worked with all season.
I think, and Drew, you watch a lot of the Alabama games. Most of the time when Coach Oates gets teed up, it's some guy you've never seen before. He'll go people may not like Doug Shows, but I think, he respects him, I'll say that. But he'll look like the Doug and go, who is this guy? And that's when he'll get a tee. Because they don't work together. They're calling different, like you said, you may not like the way they call, but if they're consistent, but if you have one guy that kind of calls one way and the other two calling a different way, and almost never do you see a referee overrule the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Totally. And then I know we haven't gotten your thoughts on this, and really Scott and I have not talked about it ad nauseum, but speaking of roster turnover, it's already started in Tuscaloosa this week, right after the season ends, shortly after. In the city of San Diego, we see Keon Ambrose Hilton hit the portal, and we see, of course, Jaden Quinterly, Javon Quinterly's brother, who it was a walk-on, and I know you kind of mentioned it, but again, we've seen a couple of guys already hit the portal, really 3 for Alabama, because Keon Ambrose Hilton did not play much toward the second half of the season, and we really never saw Alex Chiku become a factor.
No, I mean those two were, I wouldn't say common knowledge, but were, good guesses. Almost any roster where the guys that are on scholarship that don't play are going to transfer, unless you're hurt. Mm-hmm. So it's not, unusual. And then what you have coming up is, will Shackelford, end up going pro, and will Davidson, are the two that are probably, kind of upcoming. What are those guys going to do, in the near future? Here and I know that the staff meets with all the players after the end of the year, and that's what I would assume they met with the players this week.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, thanks, Richard. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, see you guys later.
All right, that's going to do it for hour 1 of Talking Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. When we come back, Steve Robertson will indeed join us from Starkville. Get his thoughts there on their new basketball coach. The baseball season for the Bulldogs, the defending national champions, underway. We'll talk to him. Plus, we got to talk some college football and ratings of the NCAA basketball tournament. All that and more in hour 2.
Hi, my name is Dan Aldridge. I'm here to let you know about the Aldridge Law Firm and the soon-to-be-announced Legal Town Center. I've been practicing law in Alabama since 1984, and I also practice in Tennessee. And I'm from North Alabama, and I'm here to represent you and take care of your legal needs. For many of us, hiring an attorney is not high on the priority list, and maybe a little scary. But it's something that we all need at some point. So by all means, do your homework. And if you need representation for car accident, wrongful death, medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, or estate planning, or any other matter, just give us a call at 256-534-3188. And you can email me at Dan, that is Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. God bless America.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Rain comes to an end across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee by the time we get to the lunch hour. Maybe a couple of peaks of sunshine through the later part of the afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s, dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Thursday. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s once again, and then dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Friday, and isolated showers possible, most of us going to stay dry. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Heads up, sports bettors. Right now you can try VSiN All Access free for 30 days with no credit card required. Visit vsin.com/free month to sign up now.
Valspar Championship winner Sam Burns has withdrawn from this week's WGC Dell Technologies match play. Top-ranked John Rahm, along with Justin Thomas, at the top of the odds board at plus 1,200, followed by Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, and Victor Hovland at plus 1,600. The Sweet 16 underway tomorrow night. Arkansas, a 9-point underdog against Gonzaga. Michigan plus 5 against Villanova. Texas Tech, a 1-point favorite over Duke. And Houston, a 1.5-point dog against Arizona. Then Friday, 15th-seeded St. Peter's, a 12.5-point underdog facing Purdue. Kansas, favored by 7.5 over Providence. North Carolina, plus 2.5 against UCLA. And Iowa State, a 2.5-point underdog against Miami.
I'm Trey Westerberg, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Log on today, 977ESPN.com. Welcome to Talkin Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
And just like that, it is hour 2 of Talking Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And we're going to get right down to business in hour number 2. Mississippi State Bulldogs getting down to business as well. They have themselves a new head basketball coach. A little excitement there as Ben Howland is out. And then they got baseball, the defending national champions, getting into SEC play. A lot of good stuff going on.
No doubt. And this guy, our next guest, has been covering Mississippi State and been part of genespage.com, really, with Gene since 2001. And he's become one of the most successful authors in the southeastern United States, not just in the state of Mississippi. You know, he has now published another book that's at the top of the bestseller list in the state. It's of course Dogpile, which is chronicling Mississippi State's first ever national championship in school history in any sport as they climbed the college baseball mountain last year. He also had Flim Flam, of course, that was a bestseller. Alpha Dogs as well, Stark Villains, and of course, Blooms of Oleander. He's become one of the. If there's must-read books out there lately, they've been written by this next guest, and it's Steve Robertson. And of course, he has his daily podcast as well called The Boneyard. But he's now with us to talk some maroon and white of Mississippi State. Steve, it's always great to speak with you here in Huntsville. You're with Drew and Scott. How are you?
I hope you're all safe.
Yeah, I hope everybody's safe in Starkville.
Yeah, we are. There was some damage to campus. I mean, some downed trees and limbs, things like that, some vehicles that were damaged. But, out here in the sticks, where us rednecks live, it's we were okay, So, we're all doing good. And to hear Drew read all that stuff off just makes me tired. I begin to did I really do all that? Yeah, I guess I do. But
you've been busy the last few years, man. I mean, and I know you've been really humbled by the success of Dogpile.
Oh, it's incredible, man. It's like the subject matter helps an awful lot. But I'd like to think 5 books into this thing that I'm getting a little better, And then I said after I finished it, I thought it was the best thing I'd ever written. And some of that, I think, is really kind of due to the fact the passion you have for an event. I mean, it's like I love going to the College World Series. It's so incredible, and it does something special to you to see your team come out of that tunnel and take that field. It's such a incredible venue, but also the stakes. I mean, you're playing against some of the best teams in the country, and I don't know that I'll ever have a summer that I could ever look back and say, hey, that was the best summer of my life that didn't include me going to Omaha, Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about we're going to talk baseball here in just a second, but Mississippi State has themselves a new head basketball coach. The Ben Howland era has come to a close, and time for a new exciting era.
Yeah, I think I agree with how you described it. Chris Jan's guy is going to bring some energy. Yeah, Mississippi State men's basketball. I know some people don't like it when I'm so frank about this stuff, but it's been pretty bland and boring. And Ben Howland is like 3 and about 27 against the top 25 in his 7 years at Mississippi State. And one of the big wins, of course, was over Auburn a couple of years ago, back in the end of the 19 season. But yeah, the reality of it is Ben Howland never really won a game you didn't expect him to win. He lost a bunch that you hoped he'd win, but it just didn't work out that way. And 7 years, one NCAA tournament appearance, and then that appearance, you're upset in the first round by Liberty, of all people, Liberty. And then, John Cohen had a difficult decision to make, but this has been tracking this direction really since that year. 2020, people were, the Ben Howland proponents would say, well, he was going to be back in the tournament that year, but that's not the information we had at the time. Mississippi State had to win at least one game in the SEC tournament, possibly 2, and you had to do that against Florida and Kentucky. So that was far from a shoe-in to get those guys in, and then the last 2 years have just kind of been more of the same. And the fans of Mississippi State have really voted with their pocketbooks and their attendance. You have really, really small crowds. I think some people just kind of keep the season tickets hoping that things will change and pick up. But, fan support has been abysmal. I think in many respects a lot of people have been apathetic. But now all of a sudden you announce Ben Howland is moving on, and then 3 days later you hire Chris Jansen in Mexico State, who was one of the trendy coaches in the country. There's some enthusiasm about Mississippi State men's basketball I hadn't seen in several years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's 2 new eras too, because they hire an ace assistant from Louisville, Sam Purcell, to take over the women's program. It's been, I think everybody knew it was going to be tough to follow Vic Schaefer, but again, what seems to be the thought process there, because it's already been proven with what Vic did, and he did an amazing job, that he nearly won a national championship on 2 occasions, that Mississippi State women's basketball can compete at the highest level.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Now that we've had a taste of it, it's not okay. All right, well, that's over with. People aren't satisfied with that. They feel like there's unfinished business on the women's side, and you hire Nikki McCray-Penson under very difficult circumstances, and she had to show up and recruit her roster to stay because Vic Schaefer had gone to Texas, and then next thing you know, she's got to get out and be their coach, and then sadly she has some health issues come back up and has to resign the position. And then Doug Novak did a good job for Mississippi State this year. And there were some people that were like, oh, well, let's just promote Doug Novak. And, Doug's a guy that comes from the men's side and really did a good job for Mississippi State. I just don't think it's sustainable. He doesn't have those relationships within the women's basketball circles, I think, to really sustain a level of success. So John Cohen made the decision. And, it would have been easy for John Cohen to say, you know what, I'm going to have to make a change on the men's side. Let's give Doug another year. Let's just make the simple decision here. Give some of the fans what they want. If it doesn't work out, then we can make a change next year. That would have been easy, but he didn't do that. He made the right decision. You get Sam Purcell to come in, a guy that's known around the country. He's one of the best recruiters in all of college basketball on the women's side. There were so many people that told us, you know what, this guy's been a head coach in waiting now for probably 5 years. And he's a guy that everybody in the AAU women's basketball recruiting circles knows. He's a guy, too, that has been very successful in the X's and O's part with Jeff Walls up there. So, we're excited about it. Sure that, the proof's in the pudding. He's never been a head coach before, so we can get excited about the resume and the accolades, but the bottom line is he's got to hit the ground running because fan base here that's eager to win again.
Mm-hmm. No question about it. And speaking of what defines Mississippi State, you've told us on many occasions that it is a baseball school. That's why your book Dogpile is the #1 bestseller in the state of Mississippi. They are the defending College World Series champions. Chris Lemonis has built and continued the great tradition, the rich tradition of the maroon and white on the baseball diamond. Yet this year, as the defending champion, is it safe to say that they got off to a disappointing start despite the fact they played a difficult schedule?
Yeah, and I don't know how difficult the schedule's really been, to be quite honest with you. We've had a couple major injuries. Of course, Landon Sims lost for the year to Tommy John surgery, and even to this moment, it makes you sick to your stomach to see a guy that was so integral in Mississippi State's success last year, but also just a tremendous person, have to endure that. And then Stone Simmons, who had ended the year perfect. He faced 13 hitters. He retired all 13 of them. Did not allow a base runner this year. And then he, too, has a torn UCL.
Oof.
And, so that's forced some younger guys to have to pitch perhaps before they're ready. And there's been some growing pains. I mean, I think Mississippi State, from a starting rotation standpoint, has kind of figured some things out. And what's interesting, I've said this on my show this morning, is that Preston Johnson, who is now pitching on Fridays, actually has a better batting average against than even Landon Sims had. So while he may not be striking out with the same regularity, guys just aren't getting on base against him. And I feel good about this rotation, especially on Friday and Sunday. I think Parker Sinnett has been kind of up and down, but he's a recent national pitcher of the week, so it's not like he's not. Penn State goes to Georgia and puts up 40 runs. This past weekend. I mean, that's been the thing, is like, how explosive they can be. It's just a matter of them kind of putting it together. And the biggest weakness is really the bullpen, and that was the strength last year. And that's what people are kind of growing accustomed to. It's like, hey, we're up 8-0. Well, just hang on. It's like you got to brace yourself, because you just never know how this is going to work out.
Mm-hmm. And again, and I think also baseball, by far of the big three, and the big three, of course, I'm talking about basketball, football, and then the Diamond. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You've got to see how healthy you can get. Of course, when you have catastrophic pitching injuries like those two, it can be difficult. But you have to, you have to have other young guys develop kind of over the season. But in many cases, I know the SEC is a meat grinder. We're one series in for in the league, and they of course faced Georgia last weekend. But it's about getting your ducks in a row, I would think.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. A lot of, I was there. I covered the series in Athens, and
Yep.
State gave that Saturday game away.
Yeah,
They
12-11,
gave
yep.
it away. Yeah, and so it's like, you make one play here, you make one pitch there. You've won the series, and the conversation today is
Completely
much different.
different.
The main thing you have to do is you got to avoid the road sweep, and they were able to do that. But I think also, too, there was just a lot of juice between what happened on Saturday. I think they realized, what, we can't ever take it off. We have to always stay on top of the game. And I think that's what you're seeing with some younger guys, but also some newcomers that aren't used to having to be up in the Tanner Allen and the Rowdy Jordan type moment. Before they were on the bench or on deck watching that guy perform. Well, now somebody else is having to step up and take that role. And I think that's been a real challenge for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at this series coming up. Actually, though, I believe it's a midweek game first tonight against Southern. Then they open up that series with Alabama.
First home series of the SEC season.
Yeah, Southern was actually set to be played yesterday. We kind of knew on Sunday it was going to get moved unless there was a huge change to the forecast. That didn't happen, so that'll happen 5 p.m. tonight.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And I noticed that Alabama's going to have to play UAB
that's
this
right.
evening. And Alabama hadn't won a road game this year, and they're going to have to play all 4 of them on the road this week, if I'm not mistaken. And so, there's a little backstory to all this too. And I like Coach Bo a lot. I think he's an outstanding coach. He's a great motivator, and I think he's doing a really good job there at Alabama. But he made the comments last year about the Mississippi State's players getting all this name, image, and likeness money, and his players hadn't made a dime off name, image, and likeness. And I'll be honest with you, Brad, I don't think that I would have told that. It's like now all of a sudden on the recruiting trail, you've basically given Chris Simonis and the staff every bit of ammunition they need. It's like, well, you can go to Alabama and play ball and pay tuition, a much higher tuition, or you can go to Mississippi State, play for the defending national champions, and you'll have a name, image, and likeness deal to help cover the shortfall in your scholarship situation. I mean, it's like, he kind of put his foot in his mouth, and I did hear that he did reach out to both John Cohen and Chris Simonis and apologized. He was just kind of caught up in the moment, kind of frustrated. But I can assure you, nobody in Starkville has forgotten those comments that he made about Starkville, during the off season. Those are the kind of things that coaches should be careful about, because it's going to be about 12, 13, 14,000 people there that's going to remind them today. This weekend, excuse me.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough series for Alabama, no doubt. You're right, Steve. They haven't had any success on the road. They got swept at Texas. They played very competitively, but didn't get any wins. And certainly they were fortunate to get one win over a top 10 team in Florida on Sunday. They came back to win 8-7. So it's going to be a very interesting series in Starkville. And that's not even counting, as you just talked about, the off the field situations there. But Ed, before we let you go, also your thoughts on Mike Leach heading into year 3. This is an interesting spring for Mississippi State. They've got talent coming back, including a quarterback that's now established himself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think State's a solid bowl team. You know, how solid, that will remains to be seen. I mean, it's a very difficult schedule. I mean, I've seen some people say that Mississippi State has the most difficult schedule in the SEC. Yeah, that may be true, but the bottom line is Mike Leach expected to go win those ball games. And so I believe, it's a solid team. I think defensively they're going to be a lot better this year because they actually had some ups and downs last year that were kind of unexpected, especially with the pass rush. But as far as the offensive skill side of it goes, yeah, I mean, they're going to be able to pitch and catch really well. You return to everybody basically except for your 2 offensive tackles, and that's a pretty big deal. The good thing is, you're not going to expect a Charles Cross type performance, and we're still getting some buzz that he might actually end up being the first pick in the draft, which is just crazy to think about. But you go out and you sign, Percy Lewis, and everyone's junior college offensive tackle in the country, and he's here. So, he's going to have to step up and play well. And, Scott Lashley was a guy that was, I hate to be negative about it, but he was kind of hit or miss last year. And so I don't think there are a lot of people that are looking at his situation and thinking, well, wish we had him back. I think they'll be able to kind of replicate at least what he was able to do with relative ease, shall we say. But, the bottom line is that's the biggest issue on this team right now is how is the offensive tackle situation going to shake out, and then can these new Bulldog safeties get out and really provide some coverage on the back end. But outside of that, I think it's going to be a really good year.
Well, it sounds good. Sounds like everything going in a positive direction for Mississippi State. Man, again, congratulations with Dogpile. I know it's going to continue to fly off the shelves because it was such a magical spring last year for Mississippi State and into the summer. But we always appreciate catching up with you, man, and let everybody know how to connect with you, and always enjoy the conversation.
Yeah, man, always good to be with you guys out there in the Rocket City. We got a lot of great Bulldogs out there, a lot of MSU alums working out there. And everybody can find me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. And, of course, go to dogpilethebook.com, and they can get all my sports books there. But appreciate you guys, and you guys have a great weekend.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. All right, Steve Robertson with us. Let's get a break in. When we come back, going to continue the talk, and phone lines back open to you, 256-576-4977.
You're listening to Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Rain comes to an end across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee by the time we get to the lunch hour. Maybe a couple of peaks of sunshine through the later part of the afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s, dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Thursday. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s once again, and then dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Friday. An isolated shower is possible, most of us going to stay dry. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
If you're ready to lower your utility bills, it's time to call Eagle Insulation. Eagle can handle it all. Attic re-insulation, insulation removal, wall insulation, and new construction insulation, commercial and residential. Our primary goal is to save you money, and lots of it. Typical clients realize their return on investment within 3 to 6 months. That means the re-insulation actually pays for itself and then some. See if we can. Eagle Insulation today, 256-755-1556, or log on insulatewitheagle.com. When you call most roofing companies, all you'll hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming. At Fleming Roofing and Restoration, we're focused on your needs, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement. Folks around here have trusted Fleming since 1965 for all their residential and commercial roofing needs. And as the area's storm damage experts, Fleming knows all the ins and outs of the insurance claims process. Log on FlemingHSV.com to schedule your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Hi, everybody. Eli Gold here. Right now, indoor air quality occupies top-of-mind awareness for families and business owners. Rick Smith and the trusted professionals at Environmental Comfort Systems can take care of your indoor air quality concerns with their state-of-the-art indoor air quality solutions. Environmental Comfort's indoor air quality systems remove 99.9% of airborne contaminants so you and your family can breathe clean, fresh air. If anyone in your family suffers from allergies, or if you just want the security of knowing the air you breathe inside your home is free from viruses, bacteria, pet dander, dust, and odors, Environmental Comfort Systems are the professionals to call. Environmental Comfort also carries state-of-the-art, high-efficiency comfort systems that increase home comfort, keep humidity in check, and help you save money on your energy bills. Give my friend Rick a call or visit them online at envcomfort.com and breathe cleaner air today. Environmental Comfort Systems, Alabama license number 92314.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Outdoor season is coming. Can't wait.
Here at Brooks & Collier, neither can we. Outdoor season is also grilling season.
And we have plenty of grills and smokers in stock from Traeger, Blaze, and Big Green Egg.
There's the greenhouse, new indoor items and home furnishings as well.
Whatever it takes. Browse over 2 acres of furnishings. Can't wait.
How about you? North Alabama's indoor and outdoor living headquarters for over 75 years.
813 Meridian Street and at brooksandcollier.com.
Now listen. And the Oscar goes to
the most awarded sports talk radio lineup in the state of Alabama.
Thank you so much.
97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Coming up next, it's the Tom Abraham Show with me, Tom Abraham. Now back to more Talkin' Ball with Scott and Drew.
Talkin Ball, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond with you. And the things that we talk about during the commercial break sometimes are just as good as what we talk about during the show. And
the damage
we're seeing the damage to Starkville, to the campus.
That's a huge tree
but
there.
We also just learned that Maury Povich is ending his show. I did not know Maury Povich was still on. I thought he ended his show several years ago.
I did too.
Because all Maury Povich now is who's your baby's daddy, right?
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
Is that it? I mean, that's basically it. You are not the father.
You are not.
Or you are the father. Isn't that what basically Maury Povich has turned into?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no doubt. It kind of became a Jerry Springer type show. No question about it. So
things we learn.
Yeah,
things that we learn.
Yep.
So what are we watching? If we're not watching Maury Povich, what are we watching? Well, apparently the country is watching the NCAA basketball tournament. Here are the top, through the first weekend, here are the top 5 most watched NCAA tournament games that have been on the networks. Duke and Michigan State, 11.2 million viewers. That is the number one or the most viewed NCAA tournament game so far through the first weekend. Number 2, Michigan and Tennessee. Got a 5.2 rating, 9.8 million. For Tennessee, Michigan.
Yeah.
Number 3, Kansas Creighton. Number 4, Villanova, Ohio State. And the 5th most watched NCAA tournament game through the first weekend, North Carolina, Baylor.
Wow. I'm surprised North Carolina Baylor was a little higher on the list there. I mean, it was a heck of a game. Anytime you choke a 25-point lead away in about 8 minutes, which would be a fireable offense, in my opinion, if you lose the game, even though you're in your first year as a coach. They're probably not going to. But all I'll say is it would set an ominous tone for the rest of your tenure.
Well, their best player of that day got ejected.
He did, but 25 points. I mean, good heavens. What a gag show. But they won. They found a way to win, so they're not known for that collapse. So, again, congrats to North Carolina. And I'll give Hubert credit. They looked rough early. I mean, and we had David Sisk on, and he talked about how a lot of times when you punch North Carolina, they don't respond. But they've rewritten the end to their deal because you knock out a 1 and you're in the Sweet 16. Now, I don't really like their matchup with UCLA, but of course I may be wrong. They may play a really good game and move on to the Elite Eight. But I like Mick Cronin. I think he's one of the most underrated coaches in America. And because I thought he really did a great job at Cincinnati for a long time and didn't get the credit he deserved.
Yeah.
And you know what he did last year, well documented. Nearly played for the national championship after they, were able to sneak into the NCAA tournament in the play-in game, but they totally, went on an unbelievable run to rewrite the ending to that season. So I think Mick does a great job, and it wouldn't shock me at all to see UCLA back in the Elite Eight. And I've only got 4 left in the Sweet 16 anyway, so it was an unmitigated disaster, but that was one of them that I did have.
All right, we'll talk more NCAA basketball, especially tomorrow when the Sweet 16 all gears up. All right, spring football is going on, and a lot of teams getting ready to start. Some are in the middle, some are halfway through, some are just getting started. But there is no doubt, and we've seen it in the NFL, quarterbacks are on the move all over the place. This past offseason was the craziest time in college football because of the transfer portal, the one-time transfer rule and everything. A lot of quarterbacks changed places. So there's a lot of new quarterbacks in new places. Who's going to get said starting jobs at those places? LSU and Brian Kelly has a lot of decisions to make. One of those is the quarterback spot. USC transfer Jaden Daniels or Miles Brennan?
Well, and remember, Daniels is at Arizona State.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, Jaden Daniels, Miles Brennan's back. I said this before on the show when we talked about Jaden Daniels moving on as a graduate transfer from Arizona State. I don't think you bring him in to not be the starter. Okay, I know they brought Miles Brennan back first, but they didn't know what they were going to have, and that was coming up on the heels of losing your incumbent starter to Texas A&M. Because we know that with Johnson moving on after basically starting the majority of the season for the Aggies for LSU.
Right.
And so I just think when Kelly got in there, they needed bodies in the quarterback room. Miles Brennan had been a guy that had been injured a lot. And of course, at the time, Coach O hadn't been fired. And everyone thought, okay, Max Johnson's going to be the dude for the next couple years. So that's why Miles Brennan left. And then Max goes to Texas A&M. He's from, Miles being from Gulfport, Mississippi, he's from the region. He decides to come back and try to stake his claim to compete for the quarterback job. But then Jaden Daniels goes on the market. LSU's able to get him. It's going to be a true competition. I think they're going to give Miles Brennan a legit shot. But I'll just say this. It's one of the kind of like the Emory Jones situation at Florida. If after the spring Miles Brennan doesn't think he's got a legit shot to beat out Jaden Daniels, I could see him moving on still. I mean, it's been a roller coaster of a career for him. I feel bad when he got injured a couple of years ago because he was averaging 400 yards passing per game. And we remember the abdominal injury, basically the upper body injury he of course incurred that it ended his season. But again, man, I just think if you're LSU and you bring in a guy like Jaden Daniels, a high-profile quarterback from another Power 5 institution, 9 times out of 10, 98% of the time, you're bringing him in to be the guy.
Right. Texas, they've got a couple new guys. Quinn Ewers, Hudson Card.
Yeah, Hudson Card played some last year. I think he was the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season, lost his job. Quinn Ewers has a huge reputation. A couple years ago was the number 1 overall quarterback in the country.
He was a lot of that name, image, and likeness talk.
Yeah, over $1 million.
Yeah.
Never played a down at Ohio State, even though he reclassified. And so really he's a redshirt freshman coming to Texas. Basically his reputation coming out of high school was the Trevor Lawrence of quarterbacks out of that state. I mean, he's known as Jesus, basically. And I think everybody, he was committed to Texas, then flipped to Ohio State, and now they've got him back. I'm going to be really interested. He holds the whole key to Texas's season, because if they're not very good at the quarterback position, Scott, Steve Sarkisian may already be in trouble there, because they didn't go to a bowl his first year. I mean, they didn't. They went 5-7. They weren't very good.
Right.
Okay. And they were really up and down, and they play Alabama the second week of the season. And someone I truly respect, who knows Texas as well as anyone. I talked with him this week, and we had a long conversation. He doesn't think Texas is going to be very good. And
even worse than a 5-7.
Well, I mean, I don't know about worse than that. I'm just saying that they're probably going to be a middle of the road team. Let's put it this way: I don't think they're expected to contend for the Big 12 title, and he really doesn't think it's going to be a very favorable matchup for them in week 2 hosting Alabama, with as good as Alabama could potentially be. So we'll see how much Texas can improve. But again, and they got Bijan Robinson back. He's a Heisman candidate, a stud running back. But how good is their O-line? How good is Quinn Ewers? I mean, I've heard some rumblings that the Ohio State coaches weren't that disappointed that he left, because they weren't. They thought C.J. Stroud was a much better player.
Did they feel the same way, though, about Joe Burrow when he
Probably.
left as well?
So that's what I'm saying. That's why you have to be cautious with this thing. And I know how good Steve Sarkisian is with quarterbacks. So let's see what he can do with Quinn Ewers. Ewers may light it up. I think Texas is one of the most polarizing teams, because they weren't great last year. How much better can they get in year 2? And again, Texas, they're not patient. I mean, Tom Herman beat Georgia a few years ago, and yet when he didn't get to the college football playoff within a couple years, they fired him. But at least he was having winning seasons, getting to bowl games. That's sort of the point.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a big year for Steve Sarkisian.
Jim Harbaugh's had to answer that. I mean, he's
well, khaki pants. He got to the playoffs last year.
Playoffs.
Then he lost all his coaches.
I mean, is this the year Texas does
when he thought he was going to the Vikings?
Jimbo Fisher. And the best recruiting class that NIL can buy won't get there fully until the fall. But they do have a quarterback, I guess you could say, carousel going on there that he's going to have to decide. LSU transfer Max Johnson, Haynes King, and Connor Weigman are all there at Texas. Is this Haynes King?
That's got to be.
And foremost?
I just kept hearing that's Jimbo's guy. He loves Haynes King. He was going to be the guy last year, but you remember the lower leg injury he suffered in the Colorado game that basically knocked him out for the rest of the year. It's why Zach Calzada got to play. It's why he had his one shining moment against Alabama, and why he's an Auburn Tiger now. But still, I want to see Haynes King. When I saw him against Alabama a couple years ago as a true freshman, you could tell he was a good athlete and he could move around, but his arm didn't wow me. I'm anxious to see what Jimbo Fisher, the NIL king, can do with this kid. I mean, he's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer, yet when you go back and look at all his quarterbacks in the NFL, F. I mean, I can go down. I mean, maybe a D. You might give Jameis Winston a D, okay, because he's still hanging on for dear life. I guess he's going to start with the Saints.
But when he's made a lot of money.
But when he throws 20 interceptions,
he has made a
I'm just saying, when the Saints don't make the playoffs this year and he throws 20 interceptions, it'll probably be the last time he's a starter. But still, if you look at it, Jimbo's guys have not translated well to the NFL. A ton of them have been drafted high. E.J. Manuel. Oh, my Lord. I mean, Christian Ponder. No. He's had tons of guys develop into pros like high draft picks, but when they get to the NFL, they don't succeed. So, again, we'll see what he can do with Haynes King. Haynes King is a legend in Texas high school football. He was a guy that was very, very successful on that level, a great athlete. They compared him to Johnny Manziel. I'm anxious to see that kid because, again, there's going to be a ton of expectations since Texas A&M bought the greatest recruiting class in history on paper, and that's exactly what they did.
This next one is not even a debate. I don't even know how you can even debate this one, transfer versus not incumbent, but someone already on the roster. USC, Caleb Williams versus Miller Moss at USC. Poor Miller Moss. He is not going to win that starting job at USC.
No, I mean, I kind of liked him coming out of high school, but no, it's good. That's Caleb Williams' job. Everybody kind of knows that. That whole just transfer portal fiasco was weird. I mean, everybody knew that he was going to end up at USC. I mean, and that he's going to be the dude. I mean, that's the guy Lincoln Riley recruited. He played for Lincoln last year. I mean, Colin Cowherd already, of course, with his great tweet last night about how he heard that the first practice under Lincoln Riley was flawless and blah. I know he's trolling, but it's still annoying. Like, I had to tweet at him and be like, look, dude, he never won a college football playoff game.
Oh, yeah.
And his teams were the worst four-letter word in football.
The
Soft.
official tweet from Colin Cowherd is this.
Yeah.
Sources tell me Lincoln Riley first USC practice was flawless. One observer noted some are calling it the greatest practice ever on a college campus.
This is going to be nauseating. I'm just get ready because every game they win, it's going to be just a love fest from Colin Cowherd. That's all it's going to be. It's going to be a love fest for USC. They're going to win the national championship, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll play against somebody like Alabama and get the hell beat out of them.
You know, USC and Texas are pretty much right in the same boat right now, aren't they?
Well,
I mean, both of them.
A lot to prove.
But
I mean,
neither one of them has.
Lincoln has more, I guess, equity, only because he did win conference championships at Oklahoma. He did reach the playoff multiple times. Now, there's going to be pressure because he's making more than Nick Saban. Why? Because people on the West Coast are crazy. That's why the gas costs $9. They're stupid. But I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? But, I mean, Lincoln Riley is a great offensive mind. But the next time his defense tackles somebody will be the first. Okay?
But they both Steve Sarkisian and Lincoln Riley, both have an insane amount of pressure because while we sit here and say, well, the Pac-12, they don't care a lot about football. The USC mindset is yes, it's USC, and they want to be at the top. They think they are
they haven't been since
premier.
Pete Carroll left.
Right. Texas hasn't been really relevant since Mac Brown left. You could argue that.
I would not disagree with that.
So, I mean, both programs right now are facing insurmountable pressure. Both are paying outrageous amounts for two coaches to deliver that. Lincoln Riley has gotten Oklahoma to the playoffs, but he was never able to get Oklahoma over the top. Steve Sarkisian has faced his own demons, and we hope he's great for that. But Steve Sarkisian, as a head coach, I mean, what has he ultimately accomplished? Was he there at Washington when they got into the playoffs?
No.
Who
That
was the
Chris
coach?
Peterson.
Okay. So, really,
now, what he had to do, Sark took it over when they were 0-12.
Right.
And he had to build it back to being competitive, which he did. And then he left for USC.
What has Sarkisian accomplished, though, as a head coach?
Nothing, I would say, that's above average.
Right.
To put it that way.
Right. And Texas has a lot of faith in him
Yeah.
to deliver. And Lincoln, I think both programs right now are pretty much equally there. The other one that I needed to bring up is Ole Miss. Jackson Dart, speaking of USC. Jackson Dart
their old
versus
starter.
Luke Altmaier.
Yep. Yeah, man.
Lane Kiffin has a choice to make there.
Altmaier looked rough in the Sugar Bowl when Matt Corral went down. And I think that's why they were aggressive in going after Jackson Dart. And really, Lane Kiffin is selling all his fan base on them being the most aggressive team in the transfer portal. They have been. They just got two more guys eligible. A running back from SMU, very good player. the reigning freshman of the year defensively from TCU, defensive lineman. So they continue to retool at Ole Miss and add players. I think Lane is confident that they're still going to be. But what you have to understand, too, is his coaching staff got gutted.
Yeah.
Because Jeff Lebby left. DJ Durkin left. He had to get new coordinators. They had to pay said coordinators. I just mentioned earlier in the show, he's brought in Kevin Norwood in an off-the-field role at Ole Miss. And Austin Shepard, I think, is still with him too. Both former Alabama guys. So it's going to be really interesting. Charlie Weiss Jr., I believe, is the new OC, who also worked at Alabama. I'm anxious to see, what Ole Miss looks like. I still think Jackson Dart will be the guy. I think that's why they brought him in. I think he's a little bit better athlete than Luke Altmaier. And it's going to be interesting to see because Ole Miss had a lot of guys leave early for the NFL as well. And so not just the coaching staff, but they lost a lot of their playmakers. So Lane is going to have to kind of recreate this football team. But remember, they're coming off of a second-place finish in the SEC West and a Sugar Bowl berth, even though they lost said Sugar Bowl to Baylor due to the fact, really, with Matt Corral's injury. But, again, Lane Kiffin, though he really doesn't want to be at Ole Miss, sorry, folks, that's the truth. He tried to get out of there, tried to get to a couple of different places like Miami and Florida. But he's there making $7 million plus and being aggressive in the transfer portal.
The last one, Zach Calzada, TJ Finley. Auburn, incumbent or transfer? Who wins?
I've got to believe that it'll be Calzada eventually. I know Finley is a guy that's got a big arm that did some things at the end of the year, played through an injury in the Iron Bowl and played, of course, in the Birmingham Bowl against Houston. But I just think when you look at Calzada's arm, the first thing we heard from our good friend Olin Buchanan is he has unbelievable arm talent. He is very capable. I mean, of what he did against Alabama, he made some big time throws. I just think overall, when you look at it, I think it's going to be one of those two guys. Of course, Davis, the redshirt freshman from Texas, is going to be in there too. He's kind of, I think, the dark horse, but he's a smaller guy with a lot of mobility. He's a winner in high school from the Houston area. So we'll see. But I still think with what Brian Harsin wants to do offensively with his drop-back game, more of a pro-style attack, I think Zach Calzada is the guy.
All right, so that is the incumbent versus transfer portal quarterback thing. Like we said, a lot of college quarterbacks made the move this offseason from one school or to the other, and I have a feeling that doesn't change. I saw this question the other day because obviously we know at Alabama, now we don't I'm not saying this is going to happen, but Bryce Young is obviously the quarterback for Alabama for the future until he decides to move on. There's a lot of talent there in the quarterback room for Alabama, a lot of big-time quarterback talent. Does any of them see the field as a starter for Alabama, or do they transfer out?
Well, I mean, Ty Simpson's not. He's in there for the duration. He knows the drill. He'll be squarely in the mix after Bryce leaves early for the NFL following this season. And I think the same deal with Jalen Milroe.
That's the name that I saw yesterday.
I think they'll both stick around to compete next year. Now, what you're trying to do now is jockey to be the man behind him so you can be the de facto incumbent number one headed into the next year. But, as we all know, Alabama's pursuing Arch Manning, who's the number one player in the country. They're pursuing Eli Holstein from Zachary, Louisiana, who's another big-time quarterback that I know Bill O'Brien liked quite a bit when he visited recently, and then came back and, I think made the wise decision of getting away from Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M and decommitting. And so we'll see. But I just think overall and then whoever it is, if it's Arch Manning, if it's Eli Holstein, you know that if you're coming in as a freshman, more than likely you're going to enroll early, and you'll be in the mix because barring injury, Bryce Young will move on to the NFL and have a great shot at being the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Because, again, you hear it every year with Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, and all those guys. Quarterbacks are the most valuable commodity, and most of the time they have many times they go higher than they should. Now, a guy of Bryce's caliber really is that good, in my opinion. But like the Kenny Pickett's of the world, Malik Willis, there's not really a blue chip quarterback in this draft class. So I'll be interested to see. I still think there'll probably be at least a couple of quarterbacks go in the first round of the NFL draft, probably at least a couple in the second round. Maybe they move up. Maybe there is 3 or 4. But again, like Mel Kiper said, even if there are 3 or 4 first-round picks in this draft at the quarterback room, if they're not a top 10 player overall when it comes to grade, don't overdraft them.
Right.
Don't
so this
panic.
Is Bryce Young's last year.
Oh, without question. I mean,
Yep.
if he lights it up again, I don't know if he'll win back-to-back Heismans. That's only been done once.
Right.
But he'll definitely be on the short list. He's going to be a guy that's, really one of the poster boys for college football this year. If he does what he did a year ago, which was have as good a statistical year as we've ever seen an Alabama quarterback have, and without the greatest supporting cast in the world, because, again, a lot of those – he had a good supporting cast at one point, but a lot of those guys got hurt, especially by the end of the year. But, yes, if Bryce can stay healthy, if the O-line's a little better – if his supporting cast is, and again, yesterday I was sent some info about spring practice thus far for Alabama, and the one dude that seems to be like blowing everybody away, Jahmyr Gibbs of Georgia Tech, the transfer running back. So if they can surround Bryce with some weapons, we have already seen how good he can be. And if he could lead Alabama to a national championship, and whether he wins the Heisman or not, because, again, some of that's political, some of it's, out of his control. What if somebody else has a monstrosity of a year at another school? The Heisman is never guaranteed because Bryce wasn't the favorite last year. So, but again, if Bryce can play up to his capabilities and stay healthy, there's no question in my mind that he'll be the top QB in the draft next year. And and that shows how far the position has come. He's not 6 feet tall, but that doesn't seem to matter anymore. Now, 10, 15 years ago, Bryce Young would have been a 4-year player because he would have been maybe a second or a third round pick at the most. But now you can go number 1, and there's no doubt in my mind that he and Will Anderson being on the defensive board, those two are going to be top 5 overall prospects for the draft next year if they stay healthy.
One of the big steps in getting into the NFL draft, your pro day. Yesterday, Jackson State had a pro day. Deion Sanders, not happy. Deion Sanders called out some NFL franchises. When we come back, we'll let you hear from Deion Sanders as he put the NFL on notice.
You're listening to Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Rain comes to an end across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee by the time we get to the lunch hour. Maybe a couple of peaks of sunshine through the later part of the afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s, dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Thursday. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid-60s once again, and then dropping into the lower 40s as we head into the overnight. A partly sunny sky for your Friday, and isolated showers possible. Most of us going to stay dry. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Hey, Bobby White from Woody Anderson Ford back again to talk to you about how easy it is to make a custom factory order. Just click WoodyAndersonFord.com, hit the top banner, then start making your selections. It's really simple, and you'll end up with the exact vehicle you want. Not only is there no extra charge to custom order, but at Woody Anderson Ford, we'll take 5% off MSRP on top of any additional factory rebates on the 2022 F-150, Bronco Sport, Explorer, Expedition, and Ranger. Another option for you is a certified pre-owned. We have over 100 Ford Blue Advantage certified pre-owned models to choose from. Our Ford Gold certified are low mileage, gently used with great warranties. They've passed a 175-point inspection by certified technicians and come with a 24-hour roadside assistance, plus a full tank of gas and a fresh oil change. Also, don't forget our service department is offering a free pickup and delivery when it's time for your next Ford service. Woody Anderson Ford, Jordan at Sparkman. Hope to see you soon.
The kitchen is the heart of any home. It's where the family gathers. It's where kids discover old recipes and make them their own. Just starting out or just now getting started on the dream kitchen you've always wanted?
I'm Chris Haygood, and from all of us here at Bob Wallace Appliance to the home builders and the homeowners of the Huntsville area, a heartfelt thank you for buying local. We're in Huntsville, Florence, and Coleman, and online at bobwallaceappliance.com.
The PGA Tour's Korn Ferry Tour is coming to the Rocket City. Join us at the Ledges for the inaugural Huntsville Championship, April 29th through May 2nd. Experience the beauty and drama of the course firsthand. Witness golf's rising stars chase their PGA Tour dreams. Cheer on the future of golf up close and personal. Tickets are on sale now at HuntsvilleChampionship.com.
Hey there, Bob Baumhauer here. Baumhauer's Victory Grill is your big game headquarters all fall long. And with our new fall features, every day is game day at Baumhauer's Victory Grill. Try our pregame starters, including our homemade onion strings, always fresh hot lips, and our all-new Buffalo Dip and Chicken appetizer. Our main events include incredible chicken, fish, and shrimp selections, always featuring local Alabama Gulf seafood. And don't forget our Sunday Blitz, 11 to 6. Baumhauer's Victory Grill. Legendary fun, legendary food.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
This segment of Talkin Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com. It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Hi, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. As we mentioned, going to break, one of the steps in becoming an NFL player is going through a pro day.
Yep.
2 things with that. First, Jackson State had their pro day yesterday. Deion Sanders, not anything too happy with a few NFL franchises.
Good day and God bless. Yesterday was phenomenal. I mean, flat out phenomenal. All the kids that participated on Pro Day, hats off to you. God bless you. The people that came in support, the coaches from the SWAC schools and various schools that came there to stand for your kid. Hey, I love you. 24 teams. 24 teams came to witness our kids yesterday in its entirety, and I appreciate you. But there's 32 teams in this Crayola box. Therefore, the Dolphins, the Broncos, the Texans, the Bills, the Buccaneers, the Ravens, the Panthers, the Browns, the Vikings, and the Eagles. Where art thou? You could have sent somebody, man. You could have shown up just a little bit. But I guarantee you that you're gonna go to Mississippi State and Ole Miss. I guarantee you're gonna show up there. I understand. You saying they have more talent. I understand. But guess what? We coming. And when we arrive, you better be here. Because our kids deserve it. You could have sent a scout. You could have sent somebody. That's all I'm saying.
Deion never wanted to mince words. That's all I'll say.
You could have sent somebody. You could have sent a scout. You could have sent somebody.
Yeah, I mean, He is the one and only. He is himself. There's no doubt about that. And he definitely has gotten a lot of publicity for the SWAC and for Jackson State. Do I think they will ever compete with Mississippi State and Ole Miss? No chance in hell.
No.
But, I do think they'll continue to get better. He's won some NIL, and let's understand something. It's NIL battles in recruiting to get kids to come to Jackson State. And I think in the future they are going to have some guys where you're going to have all 32 teams out there at pro days evaluating. And there's always great players that come out of the SWAC. A Hall of Fame player played here in the 90s, Robert Mathis, from Alabama A&M. And I do think he's a Hall of Fame player. He won a Super Bowl with the Colts, one of the greatest pass rushers of his era. He was completely dominant on the high school and college level. At Alabama A&M, he was unblockable. And so you can find those kind of I guess diamonds in the rough, so to speak, in the SWAC. There is no question about it. There are kids all the time that get overlooked. But speaking of pro days as well, Ole Miss having their pro day today. And then what I was mentioning earlier, those transfers, SMU running back Ulysses Bentley and the defensive end from TCU, Kahari Coleman, they were both declared eligible for Ole Miss spring practice. So they will go through spring, and that's two more pieces out of the portal for the portal king, as he's called himself, Lane Kiffin.
All right, and one other tweet that I want to get to. Marlon Humphrey.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So do you get tired of watching these quarterbacks throw? Because Malik Willis threw yesterday.
Yeah, that was his pro day, yeah.
It was his pro day.
Against Air.
Marlon Humphrey on Twitter put, do quarterbacks ever have a bad pro day or combine? I don't know why we act like it's amazing every year that they can throw a football.
Against Air. I agree with Marlon 110%. I don't know why people, freak out at a pro day for a quarterback. You're throwing against nothing. To receivers in most cases that
controlled throws, nonetheless.
In a controlled environment.
Yes.
To make you look good. I will say this, Jake from State Farm, Jake Fromm, from what I understand, he had a bad pro day. He did not show great arm strength, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's just barely hanging on in the NFL, because he had average arm talent. But again,
I don't remember any other quarterbacks struggling in their pro day, though.
They never do. Come on. It's set up. You're set up to succeed.
Even Jamarcus Russell had a great pro day.
Jamarcus Russell could throw a ball 85 yards. He had a cannon, man.
Yep.
It's just, he had other issues off the field that derailed him as far as work ethic-wise from being a great pro.
Well, we had a great day.
We did. Steve Robertson, we appreciate it. Mark McLeod, and our callers.
All right, that's going to do it for our 2 hours of fun here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us for the 2 hours. We're going to be back at it tomorrow for our Thursday edition. The week has flown by.
It really has.
We only have 2 shows left of the week.
NCAA tournament tomorrow.
Now we get cranked back up. By the end of the week, we will know who's going to the Final Four. We'll get you ready for some Sweet 16 tomorrow. All right, guys, be safe. We'll see you back tomorrow at 7 o'clock.